brothers and sisters, the Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. As Jesus passed by, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind?" Jesus answered, "Neither he nor his parents sinned. It is so that the works of God might be made visible through him. We have to do the works of the one who sent me while it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world." When he had said this, he spat on the ground and made clay with the saliva, and smeared the clay on his eyes, and said to him, "Go wash in the pool of Siloam," which means sent. So he went and washed, and came back able to see. His neighbors and those who had seen him earlier as a beggar said, "Isn't this the one who used to sit and beg?" Some said, "It is," but others said, "No, he just looks like him." He said, "I am." So they said to him, "How were your eyes opened?" He replied, "The man called Jesus made clay and anointed my eyes and told me, 'Go to Siloam and wash.' So I went there and washed and was able to see." And they said to him, "Where is he?" He said, "I don't know." They brought the one who was once blind to the Pharisees. Now Jesus had made clay and opened his eyes on the Sabbath. So then the Pharisees also asked him how he was able to see. He said to them, "He put clay on my eyes and I washed, and now I can see." So some of the Pharisees said, "This man is not from God because he does not keep the Sabbath." But others said, "How can a sinful man do such signs?" And there was a division among them. So they said to the blind man again, "What do you have to say about this? Since he opened your eyes." He said, "He is a prophet." Now the Jews did not believe that he had been blind and gained his sight until they summoned the parents of the one who had gained his sight. They asked him, "Is this your son, who you say was born blind? How does he now see?" His parents answered and said, "We know that this is our son and that he was born blind. We do not know how he sees now, nor do we know who opened his eyes. Ask him, he is of age. He can speak for himself." His parents said this because they were afraid of the Jews. For the Jews had already agreed that if anyone acknowledged him as the Christ, he would be expelled from the synagogue. For this reason, his parents said, "He is of age, question him." So a second time they called the man who had been blind and said to him, "Give God the praise. We know that this man is a sinner." He replied, "If he is a sinner, I do not know. One thing I do know is that I was blind and now I see." So they said to him, "What did he do to you? How did he open your eyes?" He answered them, "I told you already and you did not listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Do you want to become his disciples too?" They ridiculed him and said, "You are that man's disciples. We are disciples of Moses. We know that God spoke to Moses, but we do not know where this one is from." The man answered and said to them, "This is what is so amazing, that you do not know where he is from, yet he opened my eyes. We know that God does not listen to sinners, but if one is devout and does his will, he listens to him. It is unheard of that anyone ever opened the eyes of a person born blind. If this man were not from God, he would not be able to do anything." They answered and said to him, "You were born totally in sin. You are trying to teach us?" Then they threw him out. When Jesus heard that they had thrown him out, he found him and said, "Do you believe in the Son of Man?" He answered and said, "Who is he, sir, that I may believe in him?" Jesus said to him, "You have seen him, and the one speaking with you is he." He said, "I do believe, Lord," and he worshipped him. Then Jesus said, I came into this world for judgment, so that those who do not see might see, and that those who do see might become blind. Some of the Pharisees who were with him heard this and said to him, surely we are not also blind, are we? Jesus said to them, if you were blind, you would have no sin. But now you are saying, we see, so your sin remains. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
I find it kind of ironic and yet strangely appropriate that I've been asked to preach on this particular gospel. You see, if I didn't have my contact lenses in or wear my glasses, I wouldn't be able to find this church from the inside. That's how bad my vision is. So I think I have at least a bit of an understanding as to what this gentleman must have gone through. Excuse me. Is that better? Thank you. I think I get a sense of what he must have gone through to regain his sight. When we look at this gospel, though, I think sometimes we focus so much on the miracle itself and on the time immediately surrounding that where he's interacting with the Pharisees that we kind of have a little bit of a tunnel vision when it comes to what this must have been like. Imagine regaining your sight, or actually gaining your sight, after having been blind your entire life. I mentioned my poor vision. The way my bedroom is set up, I have a small nightstand right behind my head. And my eyeglasses are there so I can just reach up and grab them and not have to wonder where they are. Because if I can't find them, I'm in trouble. And I put my glasses on long enough to get to the bathroom to put my lenses in, so then I can see. So on a daily basis, God restores my vision. God gives me sight. Now in my case, it's not a miracle, it's technology. Eyeglasses and contact lenses. But because of that, I have a real sense, I think, of what it might have been like for this man to suddenly be able to see. I think about it, what a life-changing event that must have been for him. Because now, he can hear his mother's voice, and for the first time see the face that goes with that voice, and the same with his father and his friends. He can hear a bird sing, and look into the tree and see what beautiful creature created that wonderful sound. He doesn't have to beg anymore. He can find gainful work and feel good about himself, that he's not a beggar. And maybe one of the most profound and strangest things, he can go to a mirror and look at his own face and give himself a sense of identity. You notice in the reading that he's always referred to as the man born blind. He's not given a name. And that's for a reason. When the gospel writers did that, that was a sign that this isn't just a historical story, something that happened to that man or that woman. This is something that applies to us as well. Because God changes us, changes our lives every time we come to this holy place. Every time we hear God's word proclaimed, it changes our heart a little bit. And every time we receive the Holy Eucharist, Jesus comes into our very body and changes us from the inside. And when we spend time together as a community, sharing our faith and our love of the Lord, we become closer as a group, and it changes us. So this reading was meant for all of us, to say God has the power to change our lives. It's kind of interesting sometimes where inspiration can come from. you want to put it in a different sense, it's interesting how sometimes God speaks to us when we don't expect it. I have about a 40-minute ride each way to my job. And as is my habit, as I was preparing for this homily, on the way home, I always put on some spiritual music. It's my way of decompressing and just spending some time with the Lord. And I got to one of the songs by David Haas called Look to Christ. And at my request, the choir was kind enough to agree to do that for the presentation, so you'll hear it shortly. But that song goes right through the readings from last week, this week, and next week, the scrutinies. Verse 2 talks about the woman at the well. Verse 4 talks about the raising of Lazarus next week. And verse 3 talks about the man born blind. And when I heard that particular verse, for the first time, I understood this reading differently. You may have already caught on to this a long time ago, I don't know, but it hit me pretty hard. That this reading, this gospel passage, is about so much more than this man receiving his sight. Like I said, it applies to all of us, and it's the story of our baptismal journey. Think about it. The man says, Jesus anointed me. Those were his words. Well, at our own baptism, we were anointed with the oil of salvation placed on the base of our neck. And then what happens? He's sent off to wash. And we're washed in the waters of baptism. Our sinful nature is cleansed. The original sin is taken away. And our spiritual eyes begin to open. We begin to see God a little more clearly. And then for me, the critical part of that is the name of the pool, Siloam, which in Hebrew means one who is sent. You see, our baptism is so much more than just taking away our original sin. We're given a mission in our baptism. Most of us were baptized as infants, and so we didn't have the option to say yes or no. Our parents and our godparents did that. And then at our confirmation, we were able to say, yes, I accept this mission. But again, that's a life-changing event. Because if we truly accept the mission that Christ has given us, we might be taken places where we had no idea we would wind up. It could be very uncomfortable for us. It could be something we love. But in any case, it's going to help us grow because we're following God's will. And so over time, more and more, as we follow our mission, as we come here to Mass, our spiritual eyes are open. And we see God more and more clearly. Of course, we know we won't see him truly until we pass into that door into eternal life. Then we'll see him face to face. There's an event coming up on Friday that I want to bring to your attention. It's going to be the Living Stations. And it's going to be performed by a group of people from the Tioga Catholic Cluster. And there's going to be 40 to 50 people here putting on the Living Stations. Now, if you've seen the Living Stations before, it's nothing like that. I'm pretty sure. They bring lighting and music and staging and props and a whole bunch of people. And they do it in a way that is extremely reverent and beautiful and unlike anything you've ever seen. This is another chance for God to open our eyes. Especially if we come with open minds and open hearts. This could be a chance during this Lent for God to make another little tweak, another change in your life. So I invite you and I strongly encourage you to please join us here on Friday. I'll give you more details shortly. But please think about coming and enjoying this. and letting God change your life.